It is Wednesday, April 27th, 2012 in the morning, and we are at the Little Brown School in Port Royal, a preschool that we have recently partnered with in our continuing mission of conservation through education. This is the aquarium that's been set up at this school, and it is currently occupied by a rather large lightning whelk, as you see here. Also in the tank are the clams intended as future meals. I'm a little surprised none of them have been eaten as yet, but we shall see what we shall see. I'm now going to meet with the 3- and 4-year-olds, and we will talk about what they've been observing for the last few days since this creature first arrived. Good morning.
Good morning.
Have you guys been watching what's in the tank?
Yes.
What's in there?
A lightning snail.
A lightning whelk snail. And where does it live?
In the water. In the ocean.
In the shell, in the water, in the
Estuary.
estuary. All right.
And it goes to the shell.
And who said ocean? Who said ocean? You know what? They live in the ocean too. The lightning whelk lives both in the estuary and the ocean. There's 3 more.
Sometimes you have to get a handle.
And we're going to talk about the different kinds of whelk this morning too. Okay? Let's hold our questions till later. Okay? Now, what's in here? Shells. New stuff. All right. Now, what is this? All right. I heard somebody say a conch shell. All right, we're going to do a repeat after me. You know what that means? You're going to say what I said. There are no conch in South Carolina. In South Carolina, we have whelk. Alright, don't need to repeat anymore. Now, I know almost everybody calls these conch, but they're not. What are they? Well,
They go around like a spiral.
alright, listen. Let me explain.
And they look like they're kind of wet.
Alright, let me explain something to you. Conch don't live here. Conch live somewhere else in what's called the Caribbean Sea. In the Atlantic Ocean, far from here. They don't live here. But people call these conch anyway by mistake. So, if your parents call these conch, remember how much fun it is to teach your parents something? Say, guess what?
Listen.
That's nice.
Listen, let Mr. Bender talk.
You can tell your parents there aren't any conch. They're actually whelks. They're whelks, no conch here. And this is the shell of a lightning whelk, like you have in your tank in there. Yes, I put the whelk in there. That's the lightning whelk. Here's a different kind. This is called a knob whelk. It's still spirals, yes. And see the bumps? Those are the knobs. That's why it's called a knob well. It is not a conch.
It looks like a conch.
No, it doesn't look anything like a conch. Next time I come, I'll bring conch shells. I should have brought conch shells. I didn't think to do that. I'm going to bring a couple of conch shells and put them in there by the aquarium tank, and you all will get to see what conch shells look like, okay? That way you won't think these look like conchs anymore.
Bender, would you like to look at these?
That is a queen conch. That is a helmet conch. And as a matter of fact, those were the two kinds that I was going to bring. I don't have to bring them now, do I?
These are mine from Puerto Rico.
And these are both conch. They are not whelks. This is a whelk. It is not a conch. Okay.
Oh, they do look different. See, he says there's no conchs in South Carolina, Miss Carolina. That's why I had to go to Puerto Rico. Oh, the reason I went?
All right. Now, you've seen two of the kinds of whelk that we have here. You've seen the knob whelk and the lightning whelk that's in the tank in here. This is another kind. This is... It's by... They all spiral. They all spiral.
Ava, right there on your map.
And this is called a channeled whelk because of that groove, that channel. Okay? Yes.
You can put, some people make shells out of whistles.
They make whistles out of shells. Yes. So this is called the channeled whelk. And there's one more. This is called, and it's not a baby, they just don't get very big. This is called a pear whelk because it's shaped something like a pear.
Like a circle. It looks like a pear.
Yeah, that's why it's called a pear
But
whelk.
it's not green. But it's not green.
No, it's not green.
It's just a shell.
All right, now, the conchs, the reason we don't have conch here is because this is a queen conch, yes. The reason we don't have conch here is because there's nothing for them to eat. Conch eats seagrass, and we don't have seagrass here.
How did it come from seaweed?
But it's different. It's not the kind that conchs eat. So, because there's nothing for them to eat, they don't live here. But
They live in the Caribbean.
they live in the Caribbean. Yes, sir. Excuse me. The whelks are different. They don't eat seagrass. It has a sticker because it tells you it's a lightning whelk. That's the words lightning whelk right there. So your teachers will know which is which when I'm not here.
Thank you, Miss.
How about that? Excuse me. We're getting ready to talk about something very fun.
Yeah, we usually have fun.
We're getting ready to talk about something neat. About how they eat. The conchs eat grass. These guys are predators. You know what a predator is? It's an animal that eats other animals. Well, a lion. A lion eats other animals. A wolf.
Tigers.
And us. Yeah,
Some of us.
some of us. Some of us eat grass.
Growing in population.
Alright.
Please be a listener again.
listen to me, please. These guys, one of the things they like to eat, they like to eat bivalves.
Squibs in the water. There's squibs in the water.
What's a bivalve?
Mr. Bender, just yesterday we were reading a book and it said some of the things that the whelk like to eat, and I wonder if any of the stewards remember what that is. What is in that aquarium that they like to eat?
Is that right? Clams?
A clam. That's why there are clams in the tank in there with your whelk. Alright.
Not a whale. Well,
Listen to me.
alright, boys and girls, if I put a quiet finger up, like finger up, put on your nose, your lips. Let Mr. Bender's trying to tell us.
Whelks eat bivalves. Alright? Alright, I'm going to give you a hint. Give you a hint. How many wheels on a bicycle? Not a tricycle. How many wheels on a bicycle? 2. Bi means 2. Bi means 2. Remember when we were talking about animals and their legs with feet? And we talked about the decapods, the crabs that have 10, and the quadrupeds, the horses and dogs with 4, and the bipeds, those of us with 2. Okay. Bi, that's enough.
Okay, keep your bipeds quiet.
Bi means 2. If bi means 2, and val,
Paige,
yes you do.
good girl, quiet now.
If bi means 2, and val means shell, what is a bivalve? 2 shell. 2 shells. A clam.
Can you put them together and see if they...
Bivalve.
No.
Bivalve. A clam is a bivalve. Whelks eat bivalve.
It's bothering people.
Is that being a clever?
And you're not listening. Sit here with me.
Can you pretend the whelk is eating the
Yes,
clam?
I'm getting ready to pretend the whelk is eating the clam. Now, you've seen the whelk on the glass.
Yeah.
When it climbs up on the glass, you know that big black thing that you see? That's its foot. It has 1 foot.
One here.
And its foot is bigger than any of yours, isn't
Like a
it?
snail.
Yes. Now listen to me. The clam is buried down, not in there, but in the estuary. The clam will be buried down in the sand or the mud. Yes. Good. Listen to me. You wanted to know about how the clam gets eaten by the whelk. The clam is buried down in the sand or the mud. The whelk can smell it. The whelk goes to where the clam is. It reaches its foot down into the sand or the mud and wraps it around and grabs the clam.
And then eat it.
Not yet. It then brings the clam up to where it is, and it twists its body and brings the edge of the clam to the edge of its shell. It uses its shell to pry open the clam. It pries open the clam with its shell. It then moves it up underneath its head. And this is where it gets weird.
And the clam
Out of the whelk's throat comes a proboscis. It looks like a big proboscis. purple worm. It's got a mouth with teeth on the end. It pries open the clam. It sticks in its proboscis and it eats the clam out of the shell and leaves the empty shell behind.
Can you do that again?
That's very dramatic. I like that.
I'll tell you what, I'll send you the video. How about that?
All right.
You all will be able to see the video.
Camera, a video.
Now, here's something that's fun.
You're big. Do that.
I'm going to show you how to tell when clam has been eaten by a whelk. You see right there where the edge of the shell is chipped? That tells you that this clam was broken into and eaten by a whelk. So, the next time you're in the marsh, keep your eyes out for clam shells.
When we were at the beach, so we said, in the water.
Yes, raccoons go into the marsh. They get some of their food in the marsh.
Be a listener again,
There's
please.
stories right now, okay?
And then what is right?
The next time you're in the marsh,
Natalie, sit still, please.
look for clam shells.
Natalie.
If you can find
And the box was
Natalie.
If you can find a clam shell that's broken on the edge like that, you can turn to your friends and say, look everybody, this clam was eaten by a whelk.
Whoa, they think you're smart.
And they'll say, what?
How do you know they'll say?
So,
No.
just to wrap up,
We'll see it. Thanks.
what are these?
what then?
This is the helmet conch and the queen conch. Where do they live? Do they live here?
Now, where they live, Brody? Where they live?
They live in the carriage. What are these? Whelk shells.
Look at all the
And where do they live?
in the estuary.
In the ocean. And what do they eat?
Bivalve.
Bivalve.
They eat bivalve.
Okay. Have we reached the end of attention spans for this morning?
How astute are you?
You know what I was thinking, Mr. Bender? Maybe if somebody had a quiet hand, if they had a question.
Have they learned what questions are?
Some of them.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see.
Who has
Now,
a question?
Who wants to know
Not a
something?
story.
Not a story.
Not a story. Who wants to know something?
Joan,
What do you want to know?
Oh, I'm listening to Mr. Bender.
The question was, do they have tongues? No. They got teeth. And they bite off pieces of the clam or whatever else they're eating and just gulp it down.
We don't eat the juicy things inside.
Yes, they do. They eat everything. They totally clean out the clam, everything that's in there. Perfectly clean everything.
And then they get the butt out.
Yes, they get that out here. Yes, do you have any question?
Why do they have
What do you want to know? If they what?
No, it does not eat the shell. It only eats the snail inside. Which, by the way,
people can eat clams
Brody,
inside.
Mr. Bender speaking.
And they
and you know what? They not only eat clams, they eat other snails. Now, a big whelk will eat a smaller whelk or another kind of snail that leaves an empty shell behind that who can move into? A hermit crab. The guys that were here. Okay, what's your question? Yes, they have teeth. They are called, everybody say, granular teeth. When you get home today, you can tell your parents that whelks have granular teeth. How about that?
So, Mr. Bender, does that mean that they have teeth like a dog or a lion?
Different than a dog or a lion. I will not get into the physiology of granular teeth.
Mr. Bender,
Yes, do you have a question?
Why do they have
Why do they have teeth? They have teeth so they can bite off chunks of their food that they want to eat. Your question?
the whelks have babies?
Yes, whelks have babies. They have very, very tiny, tiny babies in long strings in a capsule that I'm going to bring at another time, and we're going to talk about. That's a whole other thing about whelks. We're going to talk about another time, okay? The reason is they're not having babies yet, and I need to get a new egg case. Okay, you have a question?
Pardon?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The whelk was holding a clam in there.
Oh,
She saw it.
you saw him actually. I guess he just wasn't hungry enough to go ahead and open it. Thank you. Because they're all still in there. No. That's it for the bag. Yes, you had a question? This, most likely, this is probably a boy.
How do you know?
That's all. Well, we're getting into areas of science here that I think we want to leave for a couple of years.
It's hard to tell.
It's very hard
Study
to
it,
tell.
right?
And the scientists are still don't agree exactly about how you tell. All right?
They're still researching it.
You have to cut them up, and we don't want to do that, do we? No. Okay. You have to cut the snail up to find out which it is.
She doesn't like it.
It's a
Sit up
boy
on
or
your
a
rock
girl.
square.
We don't want to do that.
Sit up on your rock square.
Some animals you can tell just by looking at them whether they're boys or girls. Some animals you can't. Some fish are like that. You can't tell just by looking at them. Okay? You have a question?
What do you want to know, Emma? What do you want to ask Mr. Bender?
Okay.
She's thinking on it.
Yes, do you have a question? Do they eat clams every day? No, they don't. Have you noticed that that one hasn't eaten yet? It means that he probably ate not long before he got here. I had a whelk, a lightning whelk. The day I found it with 3 really big clams that it had just eaten. And I took it back to the old North Street Aquarium, and I put it in an aquarium tank with a clam. It didn't eat for 5 months. It ate so much at one time, it didn't need to eat again for 5 months. Okay. So, any more questions? Last question. Yes. Yes, there are clams in the aquarium, and they're in there for that whelk to eat. And you'll know when he's eating the whelk, because there'll be an empty clam there now.
Mr. Bender, I have a compliment for you and for the children. The compliment for you is you are a really good teacher.
And we really like the way you show us things and talk to us about things. It really helps us to learn. And the compliment for the children is, every time Mr. Bender comes, I know this, and I know Miss Ott and Miss Miller know this, that you pay attention, you have good questions, and you keep learning more and more and more every time Mr. Bender comes. So when he comes, you get better and better about learning what he talks about and building on what he talks about and having better questions. When you agree, teachers, you get better and better all the time.
So let's all applaud ourselves.
Yeah, let's everybody. Good job, Mr. Bender. Let me say to Mr. Bender for taking the time to come.
It was my pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Are we going to keep this lightning well for a little bit? It has to keep it a little bit longer again this time. It's so fascinating.
It is.
So much going on. We'd love to keep it some more.
Thank
Not right now. We're not going to